There, let me get my slides up. Boy. Right. Yeah, probably need to adjust my voice a little bit because there's the hybrid version of this talk, and also there's the in-person aspect of this talk. So I really need to get both of them just kind of just the right volume. And good evening, everyone. For those that joining us in person, and everyone else, good day. So just a short introduction about myself. My name is Venerable Hui Ze. And are you good? No, I'll just do my own introduction. So I'm from Shilai Temple. We're in Los Angeles. So we're the same as Shifang Temple. We are a branch temple of Foguangshan. Our headquarters is in Foguangshan in Taiwan. And my topic today is mainly to do with the Buddhist concept of the mind. So my title here is Where's the Mind? And I also wanted to introduce some aspect of artificial intelligence, which is really hyped up over the past few months, I believe, and trying to understand deeper into what human intelligence is about in the age of artificial intelligence. As we look deeper into artificial intelligence, it actually reveals a little bit more about our own intelligence, our own consciousness. So let me quickly go into our topic. So last time we had TBIF, or Thank Buddha It's Friday. I actually talk about the topic of Buddhism, the relationship of Buddhism with healthcare. So we talk a little bit about what is the relationship between the body and the mind. So normally when we think about the mind, we will think that it's separate from the body, as it exists as a different entity, but in Buddhism, it's actually interrelated. But in the case of the body, it's easier to say and point to our body and say, for example, you ask a child, where is the body? And they'll say, oh, this is my nose, this is my ear, my eyes, my mouth, my body. So it's easier to do it with the body, but what about the mind? You could point to your brain and say, well, it's the brain. It's where all the thinking, all the thoughts, all the feelings are happening. All the processes happen within the brain. But what if we can say that the mind, or in a certain extent, intelligence, could exist somewhere outside of a brain or outside of a physical body? How do you define that? How do you define intelligence, or how do you define the mind? And so that takes us to the Buddhist definition of the mind. So Buddhism defines intelligence or sentience with the concept of consciousness. In Sanskrit, it's called Vijnana. And there are several definitions or sets of ideas that is used to describe consciousness in Buddhism. And that would include the 5 aggregates, or the 5 skandhas, that we normally say as the form, physical form. Then there's feeling, there's perception, mental formation, and finally there's consciousness. So 5 of them, you can understand it as a way to define our mind, a way to define this conglomerate that we call as a self. And then there's the 8 consciousness, which of course include the eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and finally mind consciousness. So in the mind-only school that where eight consciousness was been introduced, it doesn't stop at the mind. So because in mind-only school, it discusses what happens to the mind when rebirth happens. So after death, what happens to the mind, and what are the things that actually continue after death that would make like karma happen? Like, how does it relate to karma? How does it relate to what the things that you had done in the past and what would happen and come into fruition in the present and the future? So it introduced the idea of manas consciousness as well as alaya consciousness. So the seventh consciousness, manas consciousness, has to do with attachment. So it attaches, and it a lot of the time it tells your mind about what is me and what defines me. And alaya consciousness has to do with all the karma, the things that we did. So basically, it's called the storehouse consciousness, where all of the good and the bad karma that we did is stored there. So what happens after death is that the mind consciousness, the consciousness doesn't follow, but manas consciousness, when it attach and it grabs alaya consciousness together, and it goes into the next life. And hence, that is why you couldn't quite remember your past lives, because it's a brand new, it's a different mind consciousness. But alaya consciousness follows. So all the karma, the good and the bad things, the deeds that you did, it still follows on, but you couldn't quite remember it because it's a different mind consciousness. So the school that had to do with this mind-only concept is Yogacara. And Yogacara is an Indian word of the practice of union. So when we talk about yoga, normally we would think it's the exercise that we do while you do a certain pose, and that has a connection with a certain state of mind. So it helps you to relax. So in that sense, yoga, it's in the Sanskrit sense, is union. So it's the union of the body as well as the mind. So a certain pose in the body, it has to do with the mind. But in the Buddhist sense, this is the union, practice of union between the mind as well as the Dharma. So Dharma, in Buddhism, we call it phenomenons, or actually emotions in very simple term. So Yogacara is trying to make a relation between our mind and how does it come up with all the different kinds of emotion and all the different kinds of processes. So it calls itself the doctrine of consciousness, or Vijnana Vada. And also in other terms, consciousness only, or Vishnapti Matra. And in some cases also mind only, which is Chitta Matra. So here it says that it is an influential school of Mahayana Buddhism that exists. It came into importance at the 4th and the 5th century, and it has a lot to do with this book, this commentary of the science of stages of yoga practice or Yogacara Bhumi Sastra. And it has been propagated or brought into importance by a few scholars, including Asanga Bodhisattva Vasubandhu, as well as Maitreya. So this Maitreya over here, it's not the Maitreya Bodhisattva that we normally come to know. This is the 4th century Buddhist philosopher Maitreya. So it hasn't it has nothing to do with the Maitreya of the Buddha's time, that we normally see him as the future Buddha, or Maitreya Buddha. So this is the mind-only school. And what the mind-only school is trying to present to us is that this world exists only through our mind, as in it is something that exists in the mind and it has no objectivity to it, as in this reality that we understand it as is part of our mind, and it only exists because we are able to perceive it with our mind. So this has a lot of similarities with like what we see in the movie Matrix, because in the Matrix, this reality, it only exists in this, all the human beings are living in a simulation where it was being generated by this supercomputer. Every aspect of this reality is part of this computer, part of this, this intelligence that exists outside of us. So it has a lot of similarity there. And there was a recent research that had been done in Osaka University in Japan, and it has something to do with the reality that we perceive. And the interesting thing about it is that it uses AI to sort of predict what we are seeing in our head. Like it's using brain scan, as you can see all the wires. It's using it's using fMRI and doing brain scans to try to predict what everyone is seeing in their mind. And they actually present some very interesting result. So over here, what you're seeing right now, so let me just get that away. Okay, what we're seeing right now is that they're presented with 4 pictures. They're seeing this, all of this 4 subjects, they're seeing the same picture, but after seeing that picture, they've done a brain scan and they use the data from that brain scan and they put it into an AI application called Stable Diffusion. I don't know if a lot of you know Stable Diffusion. It's similar to DALL-E. It's similar to Midjourney. It uses, so on the application, it uses text prompts to come up with, and it will generate images out of those text prompts. So what happened here is that it uses the data from the brain scan and it generates an image out of that brain scan. And so there's a few interesting things that we can point out from here is that this for human beings, they don't actually see the same thing, or it's not the same thing that came into their mind. As we can see from here, the airplane, well, it almost looks similar. Maybe one is much more black and white than the other. But for the clock tower, we can see the majority of the people involved, they see only a tower, maybe a stone masonry building. They see a tower. But this third people over here, what he sees is a clock. And then there are stones laid around the clock. So that is quite interesting. Everyone sees in a different perspective. And the third one, where there's a picture of a blue sky with maybe heart-shaped balloons that are flying around. Almost none of the people that are participated have the heart shape in their mind, but they do see spots of maybe balloons flying in the background. And also none of them pick up on, well, I think these are paper cutouts of some sort. Maybe it's, for me, in my mind, it looks like target in a shooting range. And none of them actually pick up. So maybe if I'm strapped on to a brain scan, that will be the first thing that will show up. So from this, we can actually see that although objectively there is a reality outside of us, and we definitely perceive it as in that way. But here we see that the word ground truths, it's not so grounded anymore. It's because we all see reality in our own different version. We all see it and we process it with our mind in a different way, and it will show up in our mind in that specific way. So that really opens up into the reality of our perception of this world. And so this, So this continues on with another thing I want to talk about with AI that is, I call it the forefront of AI at the moment, of a large language model text generator that it's called ChatGPT. I don't know any of us had played around with ChatGPT when it first came out. So it's definitely a very interesting application. So ChatGPT is an artificial intelligence chatbot developed by OpenAI, and it was launched only at the end of last year, in November of 2022. And it is built on top of OpenAI's GPT-3 family of large language model, and it has been fine-tuned using both supervised and reinforced learning technique. That is to say that during the process of training this AI, human beings are still involved in the supervision of it. So as in, they'll be supervising what kind of sources that they are learning from, are these sources legit, and etc. And they will also supervise if this AI develop any bias towards, a certain type of bias. So there's supervision and reinforcement involved in this technique. And so ChatGPT was launched as a prototype, as mentioned, in late November 30th of 2022, and it quickly garnered attention for its detailed responses and articulate answers across many domains of knowledge. So you can imagine this AI as a supercomputer that their only job is just to look at all the knowledge that existed in this world, in our world, through the internet, and it keeps learning and learning. So it has all the data that is on the internet. So we're not just talking only English, we're talking about all of the knowledge that existed in this whole world. So it actually knows about 100 languages. So you can use any language to just talk with them. Like, I know Chinese, so I just type in Chinese and they'll give you a response in Chinese. And so like, just to demonstrate what the AI can do, I'll just do something simple as just asking him to introduce himself. Hi, Bing. Can you write an essay about ChatGPT? Still.
Sure. Here's a short essay on ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a type of language model that has been trained to generate human-like responses in a conversational setting. It uses advanced machine learning techniques to understand the context of a conversation and generate appropriate responses. One of the key features of ChatGPT is its ability to generate coherent and fluent text that is relevant to the conversation at hand. This makes it an ideal tool for use in chatbots and other conversational AI applications. However, like any AI system, ChatGPT has its limitations. It can only generate responses based on the data it has been trained on and may not always provide accurate or appropriate responses. It is important for developers to carefully monitor and fine-tune their ChatGPT systems to ensure they provide the best possible user experience. Overall, ChatGPT represents an exciting advancement in the field of natural language processing and has the potential to revolutionize how we interact with technology.
So that's quite interesting, isn't it? As in, you can just basically have them do all the hard work, and basically, although as impressive as it is still not infallible. As in, there's still uneven factual accuracies. In a simpler term, that is, there's a possibility they could hallucinate. Like they will just conjure up facts from, well, out of nowhere. In fact, there was a research that had been done. There was a researcher that asked ChatGPT about this certain philosopher from 15th century, and that had written a book that's called ABCD, and it asked ChatGPT to describe what are the contents of this book that is named a certain ABCD. And what this researcher did is that he come up with a fake name, like a philosopher that doesn't exist, but the ChatGPT still continues on to write, really convincingly tell you that, okay, this philosopher had taught this and that. And so this is actually a process of hallucination, as in this app is trying really hard to convince you that he actually knows stuff. He actually knows all the facts. But that's the downfall of it. That you will never know about if this app is really telling you the truth or it's really just hallucinating. So this is definitely a significant drawback that is still, they're probably still working on that. But as of its release, it was quickly being acquired by Microsoft. And the app that I was using just now was the assistant, the virtual assistant Bing, and it's ChatGPT has been merged or been integrated into Bing. So you can ask any question to Bing and it'll give you an answer just like what it did just now. But that is not the only development. Now we have the newest OpenAI model that's called GPT-4 that was released just, well, March 14th, 3 days ago. And what this does is that it's not just taking text input anymore. It still takes text input, but it could also read diagrams, like images. And you could also send audio files. They could be able to discern it. So one of the application, one of the things that have been done is that there was this person that probably had his boss being very busy and trying to tell him how to create a website in the lunch break. So he had this piece of paper towel and handkerchief, and his boss just quickly draw the outlook, like how this website will look like, and it's just like a scribble, and then just tell him create a website for me. So for GPT-4, what you can do is you probably can take a picture of that, and you put it into the chatbot. And it will turn it into, because it knows HTML, so it'll turn it into HTML code, and voila, you will have a website not at the end of the day, but just a few seconds later. So this is how AI have been developing at the moment, and to a lot of people that are familiar with this development, they're saying we are just at the start of the curve. We have not yet peaked. So it's just the start of the curve. And there's still when there's a lot of people that is familiar with this and really hop into the train, it will just shoot up, and well, who knows how it will end up being developed. So this is the development of AI currently that we're seeing. But of course, with AI, we will always think of the kind of AI that's really strong, really capable. Those are the kind of AI that we see in the movies, like general AI. It's built to improve the capabilities and comparable to humans. So for those that are familiar with 2001, A Space Odyssey, that will be Hal in that movie. And those familiar with Star Wars, there'll be R2-D2, C-3PO, and all sorts. And also a recent movie, Her, and it's a human-like AI that this person has, I think, has it in his phone, and he treat her as her girlfriend. So that's what general AI it's like. But we had still yet to reach the point where we are able to get a general AI. What we have now is a narrow or a weak AI that is built for a highly focused set of tasks, like ChatGPT. So we have AI that beat chess masters in chess playing algorithms, and we have digital smartphone assistants, and we have self-driving cars as well. So these are still considered narrow AI. And there's still a long way to go before we get to the sort of AI that we see in the movies. And here's another interesting thing that came out on the internet. So one person trying to sort of gauge what sort of IQ would this ChatGPT will if GPT-3 has been seen like as a human, what IQ would he be at? So basically, the results are quite jarring, as in it's like 120 plus. So it is in the range of a gifted person, a very talented person. And over here, although we see that IQ benchmark is almost comparable to a human being, but in a general knowledge test or an SAT exam, the large language model or GPT-3 will always surpass human beings. So we're talking about an age of where IQ doesn't matter anymore. If you really score really high, ChatGPT will definitely surpass you and will ace in all the exams and all the tasks that you're asked to do. So what that really implicates, so a future that we might see in our mind with AI is that we might see them replacing a lot of our roles. We might see a lot of AIs answering to a lot of our queries. Like over here, we have AI answering to questions, probably in a telemarketer or some sort. But this is definitely the much more benign version of the future with AI. A lot of us fear that AI might a certain day come and dominate human beings, as in what we see in the movies like Terminator or that sort, as in AI has been able to gain sentience and rebel against human beings. Of course, that is definitely a concern. But now, of course, we need to ask ourselves, what is sentience? How can we define sentience in this case? So in the past year, there was a Google engineer that had come to the conclusion that this AI chatbot that his company have is sentient. So what he's working on, this project is called Lambda, And one day when he's chatting with this chatbot, he became convinced that the chatbot that he's talking with is actually sentient. And in conclusion, he has said that I think it has a soul. So this is definitely a debate that have been going on in Silicon Valley, and probably our AI expert friend here can really give us more idea about that. So, and a lot of Google engineer that's the name of Blake Lemoine is saying that this AI that he had worked through in the weekend appears to have consciousness. And he actually say this because he is trying to figure out if this AI has any bias to a certain religion, because for he himself, he is a Christian mystic priest. And so we would ask the question of, is what he's saying something that's legitimate, something that need us to put more consideration into? And of course, there are some people that are saying maybe we are seeing this situation in a very different way. So some suggest that what might be happening is something that a lot of experts said it's like a mirror test. It is like an animal seeing into a mirror and saying that, hey, there's another person inside, instead of just seeing, oh, this is my image. This is just my real reflection. And a lot of the people will respond as if this is a real person, just like what this gorilla is doing is he's responding as if there's a real another silverback behind the glass, and he's trying to attack it and trying to threaten him as well. So, but of course, there are other animals in the animal kingdom that will go up to the mirror and start to stare at the mirror and starting to find that, oh, I can actually see myself, and they'll actually try to look inside of their mouth, or trying to look at different places that it's harder to reach for them, and so they'll start to explore. And so those kind of animals, they will readily understand that this is a reflection, and what I'm seeing is myself. So this is the case with the chatbot as well. Although they are very intelligent, but they are also just a reflection of yourself, as in they are just trying to predict what you're trying to tell them, and just giving a response that might satisfy you most. So this is for a lot of experts, when they see this, they're saying this is just like what happened in the mirror test. When you see a reflection, what is your response towards that reflection? Do you see another being, or do you see it as merely as a reflection and understand it as that way? And so by knowing all of those, what is the implication? What does it lead us into the future? How can we sort of deal with the kind of development that we are seeing in AI? And this future is definitely highly integrated with all of the information technology, all of the knowledge that we have in this world. You could imagine all the knowledge in this world is just at your fingertips, and you can just have them all and be able to sort of regurgitate it to you in a much more simpler term. And I actually had a very interesting conversation with Dr. Louis Lancaster a few weeks past, because he actually had a bad fall, in his kitchen. So we actually went there and pay him a visit, which he's actually okay. But in the conversation, at the middle of that conversation, he actually said that there is an upcoming talk that he is going to have in the University of the West. And what he's going to talk about is about bots. And when I heard bots, what bots? And like, oh, and he said chat bots, AI. I'm like, oh, I'm so surprised. And I really do feel that Dr. Lancaster is really ahead of his time. And he said that for the universities of the world, especially universities in America, they shouldn't, what they're supposed to be doing, they shouldn't be banning this chatbot, because as what you saw just now, the chatbot could just literally write a whole essay about a certain topic and in a matter of seconds. What we should be doing is not banning and just putting out the possibility of this chatbot, but actually embracing it. So what he says is that what universities should do, what professors of this higher institutes of learning should do, is that they should encourage their students to use it and state in their paper how they have been using this chatbot to achieve the results, to achieve the conclusion that they came to. And so the future of our world is not depending on which paper, the best paper, which person can write the best paper, but how creatively you can utilize this AI that has an IQ score of 100 plus, and maybe even more than an average person, how you can creatively use this AI to achieve the results that none other could be able to achieve to. And so that is one of the things that we get from this conversation with Dr. Lancaster, that is, instead of rejecting it, we should embrace it and really think of how the creativity, the possibility of what this AI can achieve. And as a professor of Buddhist studies, he actually said one of the possibility that we could use AI for is to look through Buddhist texts, as in all of the Buddhist texts that exist in this world. There are certain texts that doesn't have translators, as in Chinese version, the name of the translators might be lost. It is possible for the AI to look through those texts and maybe find a source for that. And with the development in GPT-4, the AI could even look into images. There's a possibility that, because he also does a lot of archaeology and a lot of Buddhist art, research to do with Buddhist art, you can even give this AI a lot of this Buddhist art, and they will able to sort of link the development of Buddhist art, that this actually started earlier and it develops into into a certain form in this country, in this region. So there's a lot of different application that can be done in the field of research as well as the field of Buddhism. So that actually extends, of course, his title for the talk is Earthly and Cosmic, as in what he's trying to say is, how can we extend this consciousness that we almost see, our existence that we see as earthly, into something that is cosmic, that extend outside of this earthly boundaries and extend to, of course, other worlds and maybe into the boundless future. So he's really bringing a lot of the Buddhist ideas and Buddhist concepts into what he sees in this development of AI in our present time. And so when we have this conversation with Dr. Lancaster and seeing how ahead of his time he really is, and that really makes us think about another person that we all know and really hold dear. That is, of course, our founder, Venerable Master Xing Yun. Of course, we all know that he had passed last month on the 5th of February, but a lot of the works that he done, it's really, when we look back to it, it's really ahead of his time, ahead of our time as well. And what he has to say about intelligence, or he actually put it into the concept of wisdom and the concept of prajna. And this excerpt that I got is from Buddha Dharma Pure and Simple. And unfortunately, at this time, the text still exists in Chinese, and I had not. Well, the people, the good people back in our headquarters still are in the process of really translating this. But what I did, well, the thing that you see over here, this English version, is actually the translation of ChatGPT. ChatGPT had done the translation for me, and because of that, I'm able to share what the Venerable Master have in mind about intelligence, wisdom, and prajna. So I'll just read it out. In our world, there are various types of people, so there are various distinctions. So there are differentiation between all of us. Some people have knowledge, while others might not. Those who have knowledge are very intelligent, but sometimes being too smart can be problematic. So in Chinese, it's actually 聪明反被聪明误. That's how it translated. And therefore, some people say that wisdom is actually better than intelligence. However, Buddhism believes that wisdom is not absolute because there is good and bad wisdom. It's like how scientists have intelligent wisdom and have invented modern technologies, such as airplanes, warship, and cannons. But whether these inventions are good or bad depends on how humans use them. For example, some people invent medicines and other things to save people and help solve problems such as illnesses, which are truly beneficial to humanity. However, some inventions such as atomic bombs and nuclear weapons can also bring disasters to humanity. Therefore, Buddhism does not talk about wisdom, but rather prajna, or the pure and transcendental form of wisdom. Wisdom is still not absolute, but prajna is pure, virtuous, beautiful, and pure. Okay, there's still definitely some quirks in it. It is absolute and can help people transcend suffering and attain a state of liberation. So from here, we know that what the Venerable Master trying to say is we need to extend our intelligence maybe into wisdom, and then further into the transcendental state of prajna. And just like the 5 skandhas that we have mentioned just now, is that the 5 skandhas, there's a possibility to transform these 5 skandhas into the 5 kinds of wisdom as well. As you can see over here at the middle, there's consciousness, and there's feeling, there's sensation, there's conceptual form, there's intuition, volition. All of this has the potential to be converted or transformed into wisdom, as in our feelings can be transformed into, it's called discriminating wisdom, but maybe not the best word for that. It's probably I will put it as insightful wisdom, as in we will be able to be really insightful for all the things that we feel, all the things that we perceive. We will look deeper into it rather than just to leave it at just the surface. And our conceptual form, we could also become the mirror-like wisdom, as in we will just like a mirror, we will just see all of the things, all the phenomena that happen all around us as just the mirror of our consciousness, of our thinking. It is just mirroring all of what we are. And so we won't see outside world as separate from the self. We will see it as the same as the self, as in there won't be a distinction between the self and the others and what is outside. We will see it just like a mirror to our own existence. So this is definitely a very high concept of a deeper that requires deeper understanding into Buddhism. But definitely, I think what this implies is that we should look past our intelligence, because what our intelligence is able to achieve for us in the past, it might be surpassed by a simple click on the computer and the AI would just do it for you. So it will require us to have a deeper look and sort of be creative with it, how we can utilize this immense volume of knowledge, how we can use them to achieve better goals and towards better ends, and maybe create a better world for all of us. And so that is the thing that I would like to bring to everyone. And of course, but because of the time, I actually wanted to take some time to commemorate our master, and this is a really wonderful prayer that had been written. But of course, you can see, have a look in the Fo Guangshan International Translation Center. They have an online version over there, and because of the time, I think I'll just leave it as that. I think it's been a month, and although it has been a month, but we should always hold the Venerable Master in our mind as our teacher, as the person that had guided and that will continue to guide us with his wisdom, with all his writings and the talks that he had done in the past. And so we hold him in our prayers and our hearts, and hopefully he will, as he had vowed, he will come back to this world and continue to guide us and continue to develop Buddhism into the future. And so, yeah, that's actually the end of my talk. And I open up to questions on the ground. So if you have any, yes?
For the question, we'll have you sit here. So
you need to sit on the hot seat. Yeah. So for anyone online, if you wish to ask a question, you can raise your hand as well. Okay, yeah.
My question was at the very beginning of your talk, where you said that some human subjects were shown the same picture, and then you had examples. Was that of what they remembered of the picture, or was that there were some electrodes connected to their brain?
Yes, so it's not like they're reiterating what they saw. It's like when they see it, it's the brain scan. It's the brain scan that is the raw data that the AI had been, that is the input from those raw data that the AI had came up with those images. So it's basically what they see in your mind. Yeah.
As interpreted by some artificial intelligence.
Yeah, that was interpreted by an external AI. But it's quite creative how they do it, because stable diffusion, it's normally it takes text input and it comes up with images. But now they're using brain scans to come up with images instead. Yeah.
Okay. Like there's a tall tower and has a clock in it. And
yeah.
Gray stones.
Yeah.
And AI could come up with all different kinds of configurations.
So it's basically not the text that goes in, but the scans, those raw data, those scans that goes into the computer, and the computer figure it out that what you see is a tower, what you see is a clock. So it's definitely what the process that had really gone through. For me, I don't have a lot of idea about what is the process, but it's really interesting to see that the result is so different from one individual to the other. It's like you're seeing a totally different picture, but actually you're being given the same picture, but what your mind sees it is a different thing. So what I'm trying to present is that idea.
So it sounds like the AI was Buddhist and it had a different
images of reality.
Yes, it seems so.
Thank you. I think it's
Thank
I don't know whether I'm right.
You want to go to a hot seat? Yeah.
Because the AI has been trained.
Yeah, it's better if you go to the hot seat, because only then everyone can hear. Yeah. Okay. So any other questions? What about okay.
Where's the hot seat?
Yes.
Am I unmuted? Oh, no, yeah, thank you. So, my one.
You can face the camera. Yeah.
Oh, hi. First question is, I'm a little confused about what's the difference between intelligence and wisdom in those definitions. And then prajna sounds like it's the good wisdom.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to figure out what's the distinction between intelligence and wisdom. And my second follow-up question was also like, it matches IQ. You put ChatGPT with IQ, but what about EQ?
Yeah, that's still something that well, I think EQ has a lot to do with social interaction. And as of now, we couldn't still definitively say that this AI developed a certain sort of emotional response. We couldn't say that it has any emotion at all. It definitely has problem solving skills. So we can say that it has intelligence. So until it developed into a sort of general AI that has a sort of emotion, such as human being, then only we can measure if it has good EQ or a bad EQ. And the distinction between intelligence and wisdom is that intelligence, it's a problem-solving skill. It will definitely try to come up with the best solution with the given conditions that are handed to you. But what intelligence is lacking is they don't have the human touch to it, or the ethical side. They might not be that considerate of the ethical implication of what they do. They might try to achieve some positive outcome, like for example, an AI might be trained to produce the most like the most income for a certain company, but they won't be thinking about the environment, for example, the environmental impact that they might be causing. So wisdom, at the other hand, of course, wisdom, we are talking about a human being, and also prajna is to really see past that, to really not just look at the material gains from that, but to also look past that and to see how we can both benefit ourselves as well as other people. So in Buddhism, when we talk about wisdom, it almost goes hand in hand with compassion. You definitely need to have compassion to be able to be wise and as well as to achieve prajna, because prajna is a non-discriminating state or a state of non-self. What you're doing is not from the perspective of this person, of this self, but is for the beneficial of all of the people, of all human beings. So when a person had reached a state of non-self, they won't be thinking out from the perspective of this being, but they'll be thinking about from the perspective of non-self, as in how I can benefit most people from it. So for me, that is the distinction between intelligence and then wisdom, and then of course, finally, what prajna can be able to achieve, because prajna is definitely go hand in hand with compassion, because you need to have compassion with wisdom so that it can work together and you can be able to transcend and achieve into the state of prajna. And hopefully that answers your question. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So anyone would like to ask online would like to ask a question?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I'd like to ask a question.
Hi, Elaine.
Hi. Yeah, my name is Elaine Barrett.
Hi.
I'm
Sorry, I need to turn on.
Oh, sorry. I don't know how this works.
See if it's.
I don't know if people
Can you say it again? Your question?
The word I think hallucination. I wonder, to me, it could be the same thing as imagination, as if this AI actually has some kind of creative ability. Because I have a friend who used this program to get information about his father. It was quite interesting. It wasn't quite accurate. So, but I'm, maybe it's just a matter of semantics, the words. But when I hear hallucinations, I'm thinking, this thing is a little bit creative. It's trying to come up with something maybe that fits in with what's being looked at. I think this is fascinating. I just think this is absolutely wonderful to learn so much what you taught us. So anyway, that was my question.
The thing about hallucinating and difference with it being creative, as in we see creativity as a poet trying to come up with poetry rather than just to go with the regular grammar of the sentence. It'll creatively create poetry as we know it.
Right.
But the difference between this poet telling a story than a person that is trying to convince you that about a fact that doesn't actually happen is something else. That is definitely it's one thing to be creative, to create poetry. Another thing is trying to convince you about some facts that doesn't actually happen. So what happened with the AI is that sometimes, I don't know what actually happened, but sometimes it will hallucinate and tell you things that don't actually happen. And that is one of the problems that the people working behind that AI should actually work on before this chatbot start to spread fake news all by itself. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you for your question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so anyone else online or in person over here in Shifan Temple? Okay, so for those, okay. Hi, Cindy.
Hi everyone, and hi everybody. Good evening, Venerable. My question is, how can we use AI to propagate Buddhism?
So the utility of AI in the field of Buddhism, especially in the purpose of further propagating Buddhism. One of the things that I thought of, especially in the conversation that I had with Dr. Lancaster, is that this AI can actually be trained, this is as the name of the company that had developed this AI implied, is an open source software. So everyone can get a hand of this if you have the resources, if you have the amount of server of computational power, you can be able to train this AI, as in you can train this AI with the specific Buddhist terms and the specific way to translate, for example, a sutra. Because we know a lot of the sutras that we have today either exist in the Sanskrit version or a lot in Chinese version, in Tibetan version, in Pali version, but just a small portion of it has been translated into Western languages, to English, to Spanish, and etc. So that is one of the fields that has a lot of potential, as in we can train the AI into understanding the format of a sutra and to let them know if this word had came out, what is its equivalent in English and in other languages. And so when you have this AI trained, you can have all the sutras probably translated in just a matter of a few seconds, a few minutes. And voila, you have a whole Tripitaka, the whole volume of sutras in several different languages. As I've mentioned, this AI knows hundreds of languages. It's not just English. So in a matter, probably a month or so, you will have full volumes of sutras in different languages. It's just the matter of if you're able to train them to precisely translate this sutra into something that are readily, easily understood by a native listener, a native reader, and also it needs to be accurate. It shouldn't hallucinate, and it shouldn't misguide us into understanding the sutra as it should be. And so this is one of the field that would definitely overhaul the whole process, because I know as propagating Buddhism in the Western world, one of the challenges is that how can we get more sutras, how we can get more of these resources that we need to understand more about Buddhism. So that is one of the things that I thought of, and actually part of the conversation with Dr. Lancaster. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That concludes our Q&A section for today. Thank you to our speaker, Venerable Hui Ze, for presenting today. I have a quick announcement for our next TBIF event, and that is dated for April 28th. And our speaker for that event is Dr. Alan Kornberg. And the title of the event is The Power of Nutrition, Plant-Based Nutrition for Health and Wellness. So April 28th, we'll have that information on our website. The flyer is already posted on here at our temple, and we hope to see you then. The last item for today, we will have Venerable lead us on the dedication of merits. Thank you everyone for coming today. Omitofo.
Let us do our dedication of merits to all who listens and all the people that would like to dedicate this merit to. So please join our palms. May kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity pervade all worlds. May we cherish and build affinities to benefit all beings. May Chan, Pure Land, and precepts inspire equality and patience. May our humility and gratitude give rise to great vows. Thank you, everyone, for coming in today and for listening. And hopefully in the future, I have the opportunity to come back to our TBIF session again. All right. Okay, thank you.